It was supposed to be a peaceful afternoon drive through the mountains. The kind of day where the world seemed to slow down, the sky painted in shades of blue and gold, and the roads empty except for the occasional deer or bird fluttering by. But that all changed in a split second. Paul Miller had just pulled over to the side of the road, near a forest clearing, to take a break from his long drive. He wasn't expecting much, just some quiet time, stretching his legs. But when he opened the door, something unexpected happened. A wild bear, huge, dark, and fast, darted from the trees. Before Paul could even process what was happening, the bear launched itself into the car. The force was sudden. The car rocked as the bear scrambled into the back seat, its heavy paws sliding against the leather, its body filling the small space. The door slammed shut with a thud as Paul instinctively jumped back, heart racing. For a moment, everything froze. The car was silent, except for the breathing, deep, heavy, primal. Paul's eyes were wide, his hand still on the door handle. He didn't know whether to scream or sit still and pray that the bear wasn't planning to rip him apart. But the bear didn't do anything. Paul sat there, paralyzed. He could hear the bear's claws scratching against the upholstery, the deep sniffs as it explored the interior of the car. Its nose was inches from him. He could smell the wild, earthy scent of its fur. But it wasn't attacking. It wasn't roaring. It wasn't doing anything that Paul expected a wild bear to do. The bear paused for a second, then swung its head to look at Paul. Its eyes locked with his, wild yet strangely curious. Okay, Paul whispered, his voice trembling. Easy there. The bear seemed to hesitate, as if considering his words. Its massive body shifted as it tried to get comfortable in the cramped space. It bumped into the back of the seat, then pawed at the floor mats like it was making a nest. Still, it didn't act aggressively. Paul's mind raced. Was the bear lost? Was it hungry? Did it feel trapped? Or was it just curious? Why had it leapt into his car, of all places? Every instinct told him to run, to get out of the car and make himself scarce. But something about the way the bear was acting, a little lost, a little clumsy, made him stay put. He slowly reached for the gear shift, his movements careful, not wanting to startle it. The bear shifted again, this time lying down in the back seat, its body filling the entire space, its breathing slow and steady. It looked like it was taking a nap. Paul couldn't believe what he was seeing. Was this normal bear behavior? He had no idea. The only thing he knew for certain was that this wild creature had just climbed into his car and was now chilling. For a few moments, the car was eerily quiet, save for the soft hum of the engine. Paul's heart slowly stopped hammering in his chest, though his hands were still gripping the wheel. The bear, now comfortably settled on the back seat, didn't make any more sudden movements. It seemed peaceful, almost docile, which only made Paul feel more confused. He'd heard plenty of stories about bears being aggressive toward humans, especially if they felt threatened. But this one wasn't acting like a threat at all. Paul sat back in his seat, his breath still shallow. He glanced over at the bear again. It looked at him with those dark, intelligent eyes, then yawned, showing its massive teeth. He winced, but the bear didn't seem to notice. Instead, it stretched out its legs, its paws large enough to block out part of the back window. Paul chuckled nervously. I guess you're not so bad, huh? He muttered under his breath. The strange thing was, he didn't feel the immediate panic that he expected. There was no sense of danger. There was no growling, no clawing at the windows. Just this strange, quiet connection. The bear's breathing was slow and steady now, its massive chest rising and falling with each breath. Paul couldn't help but stare at it in awe. He had always thought of bears as dangerous creatures. Yet here was one, sharing his car, acting almost like a curious, oversized puppy. What did it want? Why was it here? Was it just looking for shelter? Was it lost? Paul reached into the glove compartment and grabbed a bottle of water, carefully, opening it without making a sound. He took a small sip, all the while keeping an eye on the bear. The bear shifted slightly, but it didn't seem to notice. It was calm. Too calm. The oddest part of it all was how peaceful the moment felt. There he was, sitting in a car with a wild animal, and yet he wasn't in immediate danger. For the first time in a long time, Paul felt an odd sense of tranquility. There was something surreal about the whole situation, as though he were no longer in control, yet the world had slowed down in the most unexpected way that he couldn't look away from the bear. It was beautiful in its raw, untamed way, and he was realizing something that made him uncomfortable. He wasn't afraid anymore. Suddenly, the bear let out a low grunt and shifted again, pressing its massive body closer to the back of the driver's seat. Paul froze. Could this be it? Was the bear about to lash out? Was this the moment when his luck ran out? But as the bear nudged his back seat again, it wasn't an aggression. It was simply trying to get closer. Paul's heart pounded again, but he stayed still. The bear didn't show signs of wanting to hurt him. Instead, it gently sniffed the air, as if it were gathering his scent, then leaned down and pawed at the back of the seat with a soft whine. What in the world was going on? Then, in the most unexpected turn of events, the bear, without warning, plopped its head onto the headrest behind Paul. The massive animal gave a deep, contented sigh, its eyes half-lidded. It looked comfortable, almost affectionate. Paul didn't know what to think. This wild creature, this apex predator, was now behaving like a pet, or maybe like a child who simply wanted attention. The bear didn't seem scared of him. It didn't seem hostile. In fact, it seemed like it was bonding. There was a moment of surreal quiet, and in that moment, Paul realized something. He wasn't the one in control here. Somehow, the bear was deciding what would happen next. The car felt smaller now, even more confined with the bear so close. But Paul didn't feel trapped. He felt connected in an odd way. Was the bear looking for companionship? Or was it simply exhausted? Before Paul could even gather his thoughts, the bear shifted one more time. It sat up in the seat, pawing at the door as though it were preparing to leave. The moment hung in the air, and Paul was unsure whether he should try to open the door for the bear or let it figure it out itself. And then, with one last curious glance, the bear stood up, as gracefully as it could manage in the cramped space. It looked at Paul one more time, its gaze lingering as if acknowledging the strange moment they had shared. Paul held his breath, unsure what would come next. Would the bear attack? Would it leave without a word? To his surprise, the bear simply nudged the door open with its massive paw, stepped out of the car, and padded back into the forest. It was over. The whole strange encounter had lasted maybe 10 minutes. But in those minutes, everything had changed. Paul sat in the car, wide-eyed and speechless. His heart raced from the adrenaline, but there was no fear anymore. Just disbelief. Paul's hands were still shaking as he drove off, not quite sure what had just happened. As the miles passed, he replayed the moment in his mind. Had it really just happened? Was that bear really as gentle as it seemed? But there was no question that something strange had happened. He wasn't just an observer. He had been a part of that encounter. No one would believe him, but it didn't matter. The bear had chosen him. Somehow, maybe it was a reminder that not all wild animals were dangerous, that sometimes the most unexpected moments held the most profound connections. As he turned the corner and left the forest behind, Paul felt something shift inside him. The world felt smaller, more connected, and he couldn't shake the feeling that he had just shared a rare, beautiful moment with a creature that most people would only fear. And maybe, just maybe, that was the most beautiful thing of all.